A little bit of my background history and why I am changing course and I am moving away from no dig. Only temporarily, but I'm moving away from it. I live on the northeast side of a large hill in a little place called Stony Knaps in West Dorset. Our microclimate being totally different from the others in the area. Less than a quarter of a mile below us is an area called Coldharbour. The name comes from the Saxon name, which means exactly what it says, a cold harbour. So I suspect you're already starting to imagine the problems I have with gardening, especially no dig. I was brought up with gardening. It was simply a way to produce food back in the 60s. Digging was the only way to clear the ground of stones and other debris. Luckily, 90% of gardens back then would already have been cleared by the previous tenants of the plot, so gardening was relatively easy, as most of the hard work had been done. I inherited just such a plot 35 years ago in a little village not far away. The old boy that had lived there all his life tended the garden daily. The soil was humus rich, friable and dark from the constant addition of compost and manure. It was easy to grow in such conditions and it would have been ideal to use as no dig. Top it up, get planting. It was the most productive piece of land I've ever worked. 2020 saw COVID rear its ugly head. Bang went my business and we all hunkered down waiting for the all clear. Most thought it would all be over in a couple of months. This didn't happen. So on the 19th of April I borrowed a small tractor with a rotavator to pull out 2 beds in the old orchard to grow some veg. When I moved here in 2012, the old orchard was totally overgrown with scrub willow, ash trees, brambles and every other problem weed you could think of. 2014 I employed a man with a digger to pull it all out. The whole lot was placed in a massive heap and was burnt. And from then until 2020 all I had done was plant a few trees and cut the grass, which naturally came back. The weeds died as I mowed them off so often. 2020 was a good year for production. I ended up with lots of top quality veg, mainly due to me stirring up the nutrients with the rotavator. By the autumn I produced around a ton of good quality compost. This was spread on the beds and so began my venture into no dig. The easy way to grow veg. I suffer quite badly with spinal stenosis, foraminal narrowing, facet joint wear and about a dozen other health problems. No dig seemed to be the answer, or so I thought. 2021 saw good results all round. I repeated the addition of compost and manure in the autumn and awaited 2022, which again was a fairly good year. 2023, however, was a different matter. Growth in the top bed nearest the hedge was nowhere near as good. Pest problems became serious. It seemed that everything I did just failed miserably, apart from in the lower bed and the raised beds I had constructed. Upon closer inspection, the soil structure was starting to compact in the upper bed, probably due to the lie of the land, the constant rain, tree roots, and the shade from the hedge. This year, once things cheer up, I will be lifting the ground with a broad fork, covering with compost and manure where required, then once settled rake lightly and plant. In theory, this should improve things massively. It may well take a few years to get it back to full production, but once there, I can then return to no dig, knowing that if I encounter a duff patch in the future, the broad fork will be required once again. Keep on gardening.